Aarti ceremony. Now on to the next part of our program. We are very happy to have His Grace Sesa Prabhu with us today. Some highlights about Sesa Prabhu. Many of you probably already know him, but possibly a few might have joined today. Sesa Das Prabhu joined ISKCON in 1973, inspired by the political activism of the In God We Trust Party for Purified Leaders, organized by members of ISKCON. Later he was initiated by Srila Prabhupada in 1974 while he was traveling as a member of the initial Bhaktivedanta Book Trust Library Party. He attended the United States Military Academy and later on in 1991 he earned a Juris Doctor degree from the University of California, Los Angeles School of Law. He served as the temple president of both Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as the managing editor of Back to Godhead magazine and as the North American trustee of the Bhakti Vedanta Book Trust. So he has held up many leaders' positions. So this capacity for responsibility earned him membership on the GBC, which began in 1994. Sesa Das has a portfolio of two ministries now, Minister of Education and Minister of Justice within ISKCON Society. Sesa Prabhu and his wife live in Alachua, Florida. Once again, we are very happy to have Sesa Prabhu with us today. Thank you, Prabhu, for joining us again. It's always nice to have you.
Thank you very much for the invitation to be with you all. It's a great honor for me to be able to spend some time taking advantage of the COVID situation and being able to make long distance relationships.
Thank you again. Okay, over to you, Prabhu.
Thank you. So this evening's topic, Bhagavad Gita, is a topic that I think all of us are confronted with at one time or another when we're trying to spread Lord Chaitanya's mission. And that topic is, we're confronted with the question, can you show me God? And so we're going to discuss that question this evening. Can you show me God? And I think you may be a little bit surprised by some of the answers that come out of a thorough consideration of this topic. So first, we will offer our introductory invocation prayers to our previous acharyas, and then we'll read from Bhagavad Gita. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Vayam Rupa Kada Mayam Vedati Swapadantitam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakama Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Rijana Astetam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Param Bhagana Lalita Shri Vishikam Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jigatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Kriya Panchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. So to answer, or at least to begin the discussion of this question, can you show me God? We turn to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, Knowledge of the Absolute, where Krishna himself discusses this topic. He says to Arjuna, Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavritaha uroyam navijananti loko mam ajam avyayam. Krishna says, I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. Report by Srila Prabhupada. It may be argued that since Krishna was visible to everyone, and he was present on this earth, then how can it be said that he was not manifest to everyone? But actually, he was not manifest to everyone. When Krishna was present, there were only a few people who could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the assembly of the Kurus, when Sesa Prabhu spoke against Krishna's being elected president of the assembly, Bhishma supported him and proclaimed him to be the Supreme God. Similarly, the Pandavas and a few others knew that he was the Supreme, but not everyone. He was not revealed to the non-devotees and the common man. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, but for his pure devotees, all men consider him to be like themselves, who is manifest only to his devotees as the reservoir of all pleasure. But to others, to unintelligent non-devotees, he was covered by his internal potency. So, can you show me God? This has happened to me many times, doing Sankirtan, distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. You meet someone, and they seem to have some concerns that God is not at their beck and call. They can't at any moment demand that God appear before them. And so it takes the form of this question, can you show me God? But it's clearly explained by Krishna in this verse. He's addressing this very topic. He tells that he reserves the right not to be seen by everyone. Some other people take this as a fault of God. But it's interesting that actually, even an ordinary person in this material world can hide his identity, his or her identity, from others so they can't see. I'm sure you all have experience online with passwords. I tell you, passwords really bewilder me. I forget them all the time. But we use passwords because we want to hide our identity. We don't want to give everybody full access to ourselves. And so what are we? We're insignificant. One among billions of people on this planet. And we have this idea that we should be able to keep some privacy. And not everything about us is told to everyone immediately. Actually, legally speaking, you can really hide your identity from people. You can hide your identity, not only hide it, but you can exploit it for your own purposes. Just think of a popular musician, a governmental leader. They have legal rights over their personage. practically speaking, you can't even take a picture of them without getting permission. They reserve the right to keep their personage, their voice, their other abilities they may have, their likeness. All these things an ordinary person can keep private from the world. So why is it then that we meet people who demand, can you show me God? And want to know everything, when they want God to explain everything about himself immediately. Again, as they say, at the beck and call of the common man. Well, Krishna doesn't act in that way. Krishna reserves the right not to be seen. And it's not a reason to think that he's being unfair to do this, because we all do it. I mean, after all, nobody wants all their private business in the public. Similarly, where do we get this tendency? We know as devotees of the Lord that all tendencies of the conditioned soul come ultimately from as an imitation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so why should we be surprised then that Krishna reserves the right not to be seen? Actually, Krishna, by displaying his Yogamaya potency, actually is revealing a bit of himself, even in this reservation of access to him. He's not obligated to use the legal system to get a court order that says you can't pry into my private business. That's not how he reserves the right. He reserves the right by his own internal potency. And by doing so, in one sense, he's revealing his independent nature, which is something very important for us to understand about the Supreme Lord. He's supremely independent. He's not answerable to anyone. And so therefore, if he wants to reserve the right to not be known, what is the difficulty? This is something he can easily accomplish through his own energies, his own Yogamaya internal potency. And it works so wonderfully that we find ourselves in this world where the atheistic ideas that there is no God, or that God somehow or another has wronged us, has abandoned us. We live in a world that's filled with these kind of ideas. So, by Krishna using his Yogamaya potency to reserve, he does nothing wrong, but he actually demonstrates part of his unlimited potencies. Now, when we think about it, why should Krishna? Let's take the argument that maybe there's some wrong there. Why should Krishna reserve a right not to be known by everyone? Well, one good reason is that nobody likes to be criticized. We don't like to be criticized. Why? Because Krishna, he doesn't like to be criticized. But as soon as Krishna's information about Krishna is broadcast in human society, people automatically want to criticize God. So therefore, a little later in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 9th chapter, Most Confidential Knowledge, Krishna actually explains that he says, fools deride me, text number 11 on the 9th chapter. Fools deride me when I descend in human form. So this world is full of foolish people, and their tendency when they see the Supreme Lord is to deride him, not knowing his supreme energy. First reaction is to deride him. So why should he give people that opportunity? Actually, he's showing his mercy by acting on his reservation not to be known. Because as soon as a little knowledge is out there, people automatically want to criticize, want to find fault, want to deride the Supreme Lord. I'm sure you've all had the experience, as I said, when we meet people trying to spread Krishna consciousness, and we come up against this question, can you show me God? The attitude is not one that's very favorable or conducive. It's challenging. It's questioning beyond reason. It's fault finding, actually. And so, why should he reveal himself if that's going to be the result? But in spite of all that, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is very merciful. And so, even taking the risk that he will be derided by envious persons, he comes to this world and displays himself, as Prabhupada was explaining in the purport. When Krishna was here 5,000 years ago, during his interaction with the Pandavas, with the Kauravas, the whole world really, because the battle of Kurukshetra involved armies from all over the world. In his dealings with them, they could see, here is Krishna. Not just a few, as he says, Prabhupada says, just a few could understand, here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he did come. He does come to this world, and he interacts with his devotees. He interacts with society around. So why should he be criticized for not showing himself? Actually, he does come and show himself. Whose fault is it that he's not understood as the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Is it Krishna's fault? No, it's not his fault. It's the fault of those who are envious and want to criticize. So in despite of that prospect of being criticized, Krishna comes and he takes part in activities. And it's our problem, it's our fault that we can't understand him as the Supreme Lord. What do we do instead? We try to kill him in various ways. Kill God. Sesupal is mentioned in the purport as an example. Sesupal was cursed to be killed by Krishna. And due to some family arrangement made, Krishna agreed that he would only kill him once Sesupal criticized him 100 times. So Sesupal is like the man that we meet in society here. Can you show me God? We demand. Sister Paul, can you show me God? Can you kill me? No, I'll kill you first. Same mentality. And so therefore he could not bear it when Krishna was praised. And then Bhishma Dev, Sahadev of the Pandavas wanted to make him the president of that august assembly. This is the nature of this material world. God comes, and we criticize him for not fully revealing himself. Even though we're not qualified, we try to kill him in various ways. There's so many examples. Hiranyakasipu is another example. He was searching for God. He was asking this question of his son Prahlad. Can you show me God? He used slightly different words, but the same import is there. Is he here? Is he in this pillar? And what was his conclusion? God told him, yes, Father, he's in this pillar. He's everywhere. And so it was Hiranyakashipu's conclusion. Then I'll kill him. And he took his sword and struck the pillar. This is what asuric persons who have no desire to really understand the Supreme Lord, but want to control the Supreme Lord by knowing him, by seeing him, bringing him under their control. That's what we get. Hiranyakasipu trying to kill the Supreme Lord. So, as long as this type of attitude persists, then the answer to the question, can you show me God, is a resounding no. You can't be shown God. He reserves the right to not be seen by people with that type of attitude that you have. The answer is a resounding no. It's no in two ways, actually, because we know, as devotees of the Supreme Lord, how we know who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead is through the devotees of the Lord. The devotees of the Lord, they carry the message of the Lord. They carry the glories of the Lord, and they reveal the Lord to others. So you get a no for these people with the wrong type of attitude in two ways. One is not possible. Prahlad Maharaj frankly told Hiranyakasipu. He was saying he wanted to know, who is this God you're worshiping? And Prahlad Maharaj told him, when directly asked by Hiranyakasipu, my dear father, you cannot know the Supreme Person. You cannot see the Supreme Person because of your attitude. So as long as people maintain this attitude, devotees also don't offer their mercy so that Supreme Lord can be understood. So we get a resounding no, can you show me God? To those that have this defined attitude, where they're simply trying to manipulate God for their own purposes. The Lord's Yogamaya potency is quite competent, and we all have experience of this ourselves, quite competent to keep us away from any kind of understanding of the Supreme Lord. So, no, can't understand the Supreme Lord. However, and this is the part that may surprise you, this question, can you show me God, can be answered with a resounding yes. So you may ask, well, how is that yes? Well, let's look at that. As I said, the real thing keeping the atheistic persons and driving their question, can you show me God, is a disbelief, a desire to control, desire to escape the jurisdiction of anything but surrender to the Supreme Lord. But Krishna explains to Arjuna, in that 9th chapter we referred to before, first verse, he explains to Arjuna that I'm going to tell you the secret of how to see the Supreme Lord, to understand the Supreme Lord, to see him face to face. I'm going to tell you the secret. And you know why he was going to tell him the secret? And he wouldn't tell the secret, or his devotees wouldn't tell the secret to atheistic people who asked the same question? The reason why is, Krishna told Arjuna, because you are never envious of me. All these things, trying to control the Supreme Lord, trying to doubt him, but trying to kill him. All these things are executed by those who are envious of the Supreme Lord, who don't want to surrender to the Supreme Lord. Those kind of people with that kind of attitude will never be able to see the Supreme Lord, no matter how much they ask. But if one is non-envious of the Supreme Lord, then his full glories can be revealed to that devotee. The full glories of the Lord can be revealed to that devotee. Simply because of one's attitude. Same question, but when we approach it from one attitude, resounding no, we approach it from another attitude, resounding yes. And that's the basis, actually, of our entire lives as devotees of Krishna. We have surrendered. And that word surrender is particularly worrying to those that are the atheistic demeanor, trying to demand from God. They don't want to surrender because they think that it puts them at a disadvantage. But the devotees of the Lord know very clearly that surrender to the Supreme Lord, giving up one's false ego, giving up one's poor fund of knowledge, all these things are the beginning of all auspiciousness for a devotee. Rupa Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan and direct disciple of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's given us Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Prabhupada gave us as nectar of devotion. And in that book, he says that if you have just the slightest inclination to surrender to the Supreme Lord and begin the process of devotional service, then all auspiciousness becomes part of your life. It's funny because those who wouldn't surrender to the Lord, they actually want all the things that surrender to the Lord brings. So therefore, they have a poor fund of knowledge. Prabhupada said that actually most people are just ignorant. And therefore, we have a basis for our preaching work. Because people are ignorant, we try to give them knowledge so they can give up their poor attitude. There's only a few that are these hardcore atheistic persons who despise the Supreme Lord and they can never burst through the Yogamaya potency of the Lord. So our work as missionaries on behalf of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to give people knowledge so they can make the right kind of attitude, have the right kind of attitude with which to approach the Supreme Lord. And if they do that, then yes, the Supreme Lord can be revealed to them. So, what does it actually mean to see the Supreme Lord? That's important for us to understand. Not only because one day that'll be our fortune to see the Lord face to face, but to help our endeavors so that others can recognize the benefits of surrender and seeing the Supreme Personality of God. When I was thinking about this question, it came to my mind, what actually does the atheistic person think that they'll see when you show them God? Say we were going to give them some mercy, we were going to show them the Supreme Lord, or Krishna is going to show himself to them. What are they looking forward to seeing? What are they thinking that they're actually going to see? They're going to see God working hard at the process of creation. Are they going to see God, like Prabhupada commented one time, that the conception of the Westerners who are in ignorance think of God, they think of Atlas, the Greek mythological figure, Atlas. And what is Atlas doing? He's struggling very hard, trying to hold up the earth. And that's so that's the conception of God. Is that what we expect? Is that what the atheistic people think that they're going to see when they ask to see God? Or are they going to see an old man reaching across the sky, like in the Sistine Chapel in Rome, where God is reaching out to Moses, I believe? Is that what they expect to see? What do you expect to see? Next time somebody asks you a question, you come across this question, can you show me God? Ask them, well, what do you expect that you'll see? Because if the expectation is different, you may not accept what you're seeing as God. If Krishna revealed himself, the sweet cowherd boy of Vrindavan, he said he was God, people wouldn't believe it simply because they have a material conception of the Lord's body. They think a small boy. What to speak of ordinary people in this world? Even Lord Brahma, after the Brahma Vimohan Leela, Lord Brahma was praying to Krishna, and he was explaining how, even though he was seeing Krishna standing before him with a lump of yogurt and vegetable milk in his hand, it was hard for him to accept this is actually the Supreme Personality of God. Therefore, he challenged Krishna. So we have to give people, and people have to accept the understanding of the Shastras, the scriptures, to understand what they'll be seeing when they ask this question. Can you show me God? Yes, we can show you, but will you accept it? That's the question for them. Actually, this question invites more questions than it gives answers for the atheistic people. But for the devotees of the Lord, It's very simple. Krishna is a supreme lovable object. And as Prabhupada said in the purport we were reading, he gives his manifested devotees as the reservoir of pleasure. This is what you'll see when you actually see God face to face. You'll see him as a reservoir of all pleasure, kindly waiting to accept whatever insignificant service we can render. That's what you'll see. You'll experience the bliss of transcendence, freedom from all types of material miseries. There's a description actually in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, where Krishna is going to meet the Pandavas. You know the history that the Pandavas, there was some intrigue in the palace. They were sent to Arnavat, house of slack. They escaped that somehow or another, but the rumor went around that the Pandavas are all dead. But then another rumor went around that the Pandavas aren't dead, they're alive. And so finally the Pandavas reappeared and they went to Hastinapur court and they were sitting there, they were living there. Of course, the whole battle of Kurukshetra had to work out so many things, but this is before all that. And so Krishna and Balaram, when they heard this news, they went to Hastinapur to see Krishna, to see the Pandavas. Now, the Pandavas didn't know that they were coming. And so the Bhagavatam describes the response of the Pandavas, who are devotees of the Lord, we know, and that have this type of attitude, the right type of attitude toward this question, can you show me God? They have the right kind of attitude, that surrendered, accepting attitude we talked about. So it describes how someone with that type of attitude, what that person experiences when they see the Lord. That's what's described here. And so I want to just read to you a few brief sections of that chapter from Srimad Bhagavatam. It talks about the experience of seeing God, of answering that question, can you show me God? Approaching it with the right mood, right attitude, surrendered attitude, and what the experience is like. This is what the experience is for those who ask, can you show me God, as devotees of the Lord? And something that, and it's a description actually of the Yogamaya, the internal potency of the Lord, by which he hides himself from the non-devotees. That same internal potency of the Lord is what's described in terms of the experience had when one actually sees God. So it describes here that it's talking about Krishna and says, he visited the Pandavas without warning, and all of them got up from their respective seats as soon as they saw him. So what's the first part of the experience of seeing God? Almost for the first time, like as I said, the Pandavas, he visited unexpectedly without warning. So he just walked in. And so what was the first response of someone, a devotee of the Lord, seeing God? Well, it describes here, they got up from their seats as soon as they saw him. In other words, they took a respectful attitude, a surrendered attitude. When a king is sitting on a throne, they don't get up for anybody. But the Pandavas got up for Krishna spontaneously. not like they had to think about it. Oh, should we stand up or not stand up? What's the proper etiquette? We're kings. No. They stood up immediately. So that's the first thing that we'll experience when we see God. We'll have a respectful, submissive attitude. And so the description goes on. Krishna is called Mukunda because as soon as one comes in constant touch with Krishna or sees him in full Krishna consciousness, one immediately becomes free from all material anxieties. See, this is what the atheistic people want. They want God to free them from all anxieties, but they don't want the other part of surrender, the right attitude to have. The right attitude is displayed by the Pandavas, is that when one sees the Supreme Lord, one immediately becomes free from all material anxieties. We're so full of material anxieties that we can hardly imagine what that's like. But that is the experience. So the description goes on. Not only that, but one is immediately blessed with all spiritual bliss. You know the difference between freedom from material anxieties and spiritual bliss. Freedom from material anxieties is what the impersonalists seek by killing the self, annihilating the self, not interacting with the world, everything's one. No material anxieties is also part of that system. So devotees don't stop there. They want all spiritual bliss, which comes from the loving relationship with the Supreme Lord. And so not only does first seeing the Lord relieve one of all material miseries, but it also immediately blesses one with all spiritual bliss. Loving relationships with the Supreme Personality of God. It goes on. It gets better, actually. The description is, receiving Krishna, the Pandavas were enlivened. Now, we use that word enlivened a lot, but what does it actually mean? It explains here in terms of the experience you have when you see God. Just as if awakened from unconsciousness or loss of life. When a man is lying unconscious, his senses and the different parts of his body are inactive. But when he regains his consciousness, the senses immediately become active. It's like waking up, but from a waking state. We're all awake now. Hopefully, everybody is asleep. We're all awake. Can you just imagine becoming more awake even from this waking state? That's what the experience is like when we see God. This is actually described in other places in Bhagavatam also. This experience of waking up, fully waking up to what? Not just freedom from material miseries, but to our spiritual relationship with Krishna. Seeing can do it all. And Prabhupada concludes that here by saying, by seeing the face of Lord Krishna, everyone was transcendently satisfied. Something that the living entity has never experienced in this world. That's why the atheistic persons deep down in their hearts, which are covered with hate and rejection of the Supreme Lord, what they really want is to be satisfied. That's only possible when we surrender first, then we see God, then we're fully transcendently satisfied. Now, just finally on this description, we know the purport in the Bhagavad Gita verse 725 talks about the Pandavas. The Pandavas' mother was Kunti Devi. And Kunti Devi has very heart-rendering prayers that she offers in the 8th chapter of the 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where she describes what it's going to be like when Krishna goes from their vision. She didn't want that. She said, let me see all material miseries, because when I see them, I know you'll be here. Now, our material miseries are reduced. We won the kingdom. And what's happening? We're not going to be able to see you. I would rather see you and have all these material miseries than for you to not have the material miseries. Very hard rendering prayer she offers. And Prabhupada describes the ultimate experience in seeing God. He says, Kunti Devi's eyes became wet, and in great love, she feelingly embraced Lord Krishna. So her eyes became wet. What happens when our eyes become wet? Tears fill our eyes. We can't see properly. That's perfection. When our eyes are filled, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also describes this in the Shikshastra. When our eyes are filled with tears of love for the Supreme Lord, so that our vision becomes blurred. That's the perfection of seeing God. So yes, we can say very emphatically, yes, I can show you God. Of course, we have to qualify ourselves first. But again, that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. We become qualified, and then we help others. Help others to see Supreme Personality of God. So these are some thoughts on this question. Can you show me God? Perhaps the devotees have some reflections, comments, or questions that we can entertain now. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add?
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, here's an opportunity for us to get some clarification, or if you got some clarification to share with others, or if you have any questions, please take this opportunity.
You know, there's another, somebody's got their hand raised. And
Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for your lecture. Actually, I don't have any questions, although I had several questions during the presentation, but you answered them as I was asking them in my mind. So thank you. I think it clarifies many things for me, as I have a few friends that some are interested in Krishna consciousness, but some are atheistic. And your lecture helped me actually to maybe to position myself in a better place with one group or the other, and to always maintain a good impression of Krishna consciousness and the practice for one group of another. Hopefully it makes sense.
yes, thank you for trying to spread Lord Chaitanya's movement, taking up Srila Prabhupada's desire to introduce people to Krishna consciousness. Actually, it's a great welfare work that is done by the devotees on behalf of the Supreme Lord, because Krishna doesn't want to hide himself. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come and he's broken open the storehouse of love of God. He wants to give it out. And he says his problem is he needs help giving it out. He doesn't want to hide himself from people that are atheistic. He'd rather convert them And he's left that task to us. And so we should try our humble best to try to give everyone the answer to this question. When they ask, can you show me God? We say, yes. Here's how we can show you God. So good luck. Any other questions? Actually, I was thinking that this month is the Damodar, month of Damodar, Kartik birth. And every day we're singing the Damodar Astakam. And in there, so much is talking about vision, the type of vision, what Satyavrat Muni wants to see. How he wants to see the wonderful pastimes of Krishna with Mother Yashoda always appearing before his eyes. He doesn't want to see even other aspects of the Supreme Lord, like Paramatma, who's guiding all of us from within our heart and is present in every atom. He doesn't want to know that feature. He wants to see only the beautiful child Krishna running in fear of Mother Yashoda. When we understand these pastimes, these intimate pastimes of Krishna, we can see why Krishna doesn't want to reveal himself, because they can be easily misunderstood. And people can be misled, taken advantage of by unscrupulous persons. So the way to reach this state is by practicing sadhana on a daily basis, trying to clear our vision in our hearts so that we can see Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. Okay, if there's nothing else.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, this is Guru Prasad. I liked when you read that Srila Prabhupada said that from being awakened state in material body to being awakened to our spiritual. So it's like a double awakening. So it is true. It is true. I mean, that's the best way to explain, because we know we have this experience. We are asleep and we get up and we are awakened. We are aware of what's around us, but only in the material sense. So in the same way, there must be a method, right? So to become spiritually awakened, and that is what Srila Prabhupada is giving us by the mercy of by the mercy of Mahaprabhu, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. That is the first step towards becoming spiritually awakened. So that's a very nice way of understanding the concept you explained. I also liked when that the perfection of seeing, like what Queen Kunti felt. She couldn't really see the Lord in front of her. So she became so, so much love for him. So tears welled up in her eyes and she couldn't even see that. That's a perfection of seeing. As you said, it's a perfection of seeing the Lord. Yeah, it's also a wonderful thing. Now, devotees can justifiably can ask the question. Many devotees are actually, they believe in God, they chant the mantra, they are not envious. So what is exactly required for them to see the Lord now?
Probably the most important factor in changing us from a person who we answer no to, can you show me that, to a person we say yes when you can show me God, is the factor which changes one from the other is association with devotees. When we are together with the devotees and engaging in devotional activities together, it creates more devotional energy and love and benefit for the participants than if we singly added them together. The sum is more than the total of the parts in its devotee association. So that's what we should always seek. And in devotee association, what do? Well, we hear and chant about the glories of the Supreme Lord. We render service to the Supreme Lord. Actually, let me stop for a minute and just focus on this rendering service to the Supreme Lord. Because not only is it a matter of attitude, but it's a matter of service as well. And this is shown in how a devotee saw the Lord. At first didn't see him, then he saw him later. And it's Jambavan. Jambavan was Riksharaj. He was king of the bears. He was in Lord Ramachandra's army. And later he appeared in Krishna's pastimes as well. But when the Shamataka jewel was stolen and ended up in the courtyard of Jambavan as a plaything for his son, when Krishna came there to retrieve the Shamataka jewel, the boy screamed and the father Jambavan came out. "Who are you? Why you've come to disturb my palace, my place here?" And so he started fighting with the Supreme Lord. They fought for 20-some days, day and night. The Supreme Lord and his devotee, Jambavan. Remember, Jambavan was a devotee from Lord Ram, millennium ago. But he couldn't recognize the Supreme Lord until he rendered some service. Then he could see. After 21 days, when the Lord was satisfied with the service rendered by Jambavan of fighting, we know that the Lord likes to fight. It's part of transcendental experience with his devotees. So for 20-some days, they were fighting. Jambavan was giving the service to the Lord. Then he finally realized, well, wait a minute. You're the Supreme Personality of Godhead, my Lord. And then he offered all kinds of humble submission. And so the Lord wants our service as well, and that's another way to see him. We may not see him directly initially, but by rendering service, then we can see the Lord, and that's what Jambavan's experience was. So that's another way of seeing, is by rendering service. And that can best be done as in association with others.
Yes, Prabhu. Having said that, I know many devotees have the experience of, if not seeing the Lord, because seeing can take many different meaning, they have perceived the presence of the Lord. So I think that's probably the another way of understanding the Lord's presence. We have felt it, when you particularly go to, especially, I should say, in the association of devotees, especially in holy dhams like Mayapur and Vrindavan Dham, there is some special feeling is felt for sure. So I do understand that. So,
Okay, well, I can just mention that recently I've been listening to a lot of discussions of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan from Indradyumna Swami, and also of Radhanath Swami's Kartik Yatra, which this year is done virtually in Calcutta. And both of them repeatedly mentioned how key devotees in the Lord's pastimes, both Krishna's pastimes as well as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates' pastime, a key element is seeing the Lord in dreams and receiving instruction in dreams. So dreams, of course, when the Lord appears, is not an ordinary dream, but we can take the lesson from the previous acharyas that seeing is also done in dreams. So the Lord appears to us, and maybe you've all had this experience where you dream about the Supreme Lord, the spiritual master, or the assembly of devotees. These things are real. They're not just material dreams that are just part of the continuing illusion of material existence. So as you mentioned, Prabhu, Prabhu, many different ways seeing is possible.
Hare Krishna, any other reflections from devotees?
We have very beautiful Gornitai deities there. I hope that someday I'll be able to see them personally.
Yeah, you're most welcome, Prabhu. You're most welcome here.
Thank you. Sometimes I come to Toronto because I have relatives there. Maybe one day I'll have the fortune to meet you all personally.
I hope Sishi Gonita will fulfill your desire.
Thank you.
Hare,
So why don't we end at this point? Thank you all for your attention.
There is one, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, there is one question.
Okay.
How we will be able to come from or come out of material senses to spiritual senses, or how we really approach the spiritual senses, fulfill it?
That's a good question, because it takes us from the direction of theoretical understanding of spiritual life to actual practice of spiritual life. And the way that that can be done, as given by Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is not by rejecting the senses, but rather engaging the senses in the service of the Supreme Lord. In the beginning of Nectar Devotion, Dr. Prabhupada's translation, we get a description of 64 items of devotional service. And those items of devotional service are specifically described as sadhana bhakti. Defining sadhana bhakti means engaging the senses in authorized spiritual practices, not only just chanting and doing deity worship, things like that, but in trying to give Krishna consciousness to others, by participating in the festivals, by engaging our senses in various ways that are given to us by the acharyas. The senses gradually become purified and they become spiritualized by that process. So someone that's been engaged in the practice of sadhana bhakti for many years, their senses are actually different than when they started. And their senses are actually different than when compared to a newcomer. It's just practice devotional service. Therefore, we're advised, always take the humble position and serve the senior Vaishnavas. And that way we become purified. And senses become purified.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Rupa Goswami's given me. And I got the last question to ask you is, how we can senses can be purified when we are in old age? We have got diseases and we have got problems coming up. How we will concentrate fully on our sadhana?
I'm sorry to hear if you're suffering from different ailments. I hope that Krishna blesses you. But what we can do is understand that Krishna is a person. Hopefully none of what we've talked about tonight leaves us with the impression that Krishna doesn't have the ability to respond very personally to our individual situations. That's what it means to have a personal God. That he can respond to us as per our individual circumstance in life. And so, old age, infirmity, any other kind of difficulty we may have is completely understood by the Supreme Lord and appreciated. What can be done and what can't be done. Not that you're held to the standard of an Olympic athlete. And if you don't meet that standard, you can't execute devotional service. No. whatever little service you can do. Again, it's the attitude. It's the attitude. You have the right attitude, then everything is properly taken into consideration by the Supreme Lord. So don't worry, just go on doing the best you can, and Krishna will carry what you back. I'm not just saying my own opinion here. Krishna Bhagavad Gita says, I provide what they need and I carry what they lack. This is what Krishna promises. Okay, Gopashad, I think that.
Thank you very much for this explanations and guidelines for us, so that we will be coming out from our miserable situations and approach the real sense for Lord appreciation.
Well, I wish you all best. If I can serve you in any way, just please let me know. Thank you very much to all of your devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sesa Prabhu. We say goodbye to you, but we hope to see you soon again here. Thank you.
Anytime you wish, just call me. I'm your servant.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay.